right, it's Coach David again here from Metro Jiu Jitsu, here with another clip of our podcast that you can find on our YouTube channel. So I'm here with Coach Mohammad. How you doing today, Coach?
Hey, Coach David. Good to be here.
Awesome. So we're going to dive right into it. Picking your brain about your teaching experience and kind of your jiu-jitsu history.
Uh-huh.
When did you know you wanted to teach? And by that I mean, when did you know you wanted to own your own school and teach your own students, and why?
That's a very long question. I'll give you the short answer.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate that.
I would say about when I was 14 years old, I wanted to teach martial arts.
Wow.
Yeah. So at 13 and 14 years old, I experienced bullying very, very severely. It was really, really bad, and it didn't make sense. Probably wouldn't make sense to anybody, but I knew that martial arts would give me a outlet to stop the bullying. I hadn't really been training back then, but I knew that if something can help me, that would probably be it. So I would say about 14 years old. So I still was bullied for years to come.
At some art, whatever. At 14, you're like, I want to teach some self-defense art to somebody.
Yes. Well, mind you, my favorite movie at the time was The Karate Kid.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I still need to see that one.
You haven't seen The Karate Kid?
I know all the lines from it. I've never actually seen. I've seen the Jaden Smith one where he does taekwondo. The Karate Kid does taekwondo.
Yeah. Okay. With
Jackie Chan.
Jackie Chan. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, it started then, and that's when the initial idea popped in my head.
Okay.
But really, that little idea hadn't gone away for many, many years, because for the next 20 years or more, I have been experimenting in many different martial arts, and this project really, Metro Jiu Jitsu, really started to come to light. I would say as I was probably when I was a purple belt.
Okay.
Yeah, so about 6 years ago. So I've been training almost 12 years now, so about 6 years ago.
6 years in. So at purple belt, you've had this vision of teaching some martial art. You discovered jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and then right around purple, 6 years into that career, you're like, this is, I want to open my own school one day.
Yeah. I mean, at a blue belt, I wanted to really wanted to give back. So at a blue belt, mind you, I think part of it goes, I have 6 children, so you have to be a really good teacher and communicator with children.
I agree.
Yeah, and also at my work, I've been very successful at GNC, and I've owned a chain of nutrition stores, and part of that success, a big part of that success, came from duplicating my knowledge, duplicating my efforts, and it all came through teaching and training.
Yeah, I got to, I'm gonna throw a surprise question in at you. So,
okay.
It's off script a little bit. I've heard it said that the best athletes don't always make the best coaches. Do you know what I mean by that, and do you agree?
Totally, yeah. I've been around many people growing up who were like monster athletes, and I've been exposed to them, and I think they really shaped myself as an athlete. They were dominant at their age, even at 13, 17, 18, mid-20s, and into 30s, but they weren't somebody who could take the people around them and develop them. So I totally agree. You could be really good at something, but not have the skill set to actually duplicate success in somebody else.
Yeah. Different skill set. It's a different to performing it and duplicating it or teaching it.
It is. Yeah. It really is.
All right. Next question is: are there any surprise now? Being pretty deep into the Metro program, are there any surprises that came up from teaching that you didn't expect? It could be teaching kids or adults, and just any in general. Any surprises?
From teaching?
Yeah. As now that you're teaching, like, because I'm at least for myself, and I'm sure others, they have this vision of what it's going to be like, and now that you're actually heavily submerged in it, are there any surprises that came up?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest surprises is when you, as a teacher, you could be a professor, or you could be teaching a skill trade, or you could, regardless of whatever information you have that you want to communicate or share with somebody, there comes a point when, I believe anyway, that I wouldn't teach something that I didn't believe. I wouldn't teach something that couldn't make an impact on my life or somebody else's. So
Agreed.
I think one of the biggest surprises is that that people are not like trying to suck you for information. They're not trying to get as much information out of you as you can, and really, really take all of your knowledge. And I think it takes a little bit of time to realize, as people get the benefits of martial arts, they do that a little bit more. Honestly, I think there is a culture in the martial arts community that people don't want to share everything that they have because it becomes a threat.
You can't tell them where your weapons are hidden, right? Yeah, you almost need to keep some for yourself.
And you know what? Anybody who works in a job force, it's very common practice when somebody is excelling at their job, they're afraid to share what they're doing, because then if they give other people their tools, and they essentially become a threat to them.
Yeah.
And I believe that's a culture that is that's really prevalent in the martial arts community and in schools. So, but the biggest what was that? What was the question?
Any surprises that have arose?
Yeah, just how everybody's not like me. Everybody. No, I think the biggest surprise is from teaching is that people don't want to get as much information as they can, but I think some people are a little bit intimidated and afraid because some people don't want to look stupid asking silly questions.
Yeah. So next question is, how has your experience and your background as a jiu-jitsu student affected and influenced your philosophy as a jiu-jitsu instructor?
That's a really good question. As much as raising my 6 children has influenced me as a coach and communicator, I believe I've been influenced just as much in the first 10 years of my training, because I felt like I could have been taught better. I felt like I could have been taught more, and I felt like I could have been developed a little bit more. And just knowing that there was always a little bit more that I believe could have been communicated to me, and I believe there's more that I could have been developed as a athlete. It really drove me to want to give back even more. So it's shaped me in my teaching to really be mindful personally of what's going on in people's life, to watch people's body language on and off the mat. It's really helped me to be mindful of like the posture and the attitude of somebody and where they're at, because if you don't break through, if people have walls up, you can't teach. It makes it a little bit harder. So sometimes the school and the culture and the teachers put that walls up, and sometimes those walls are put up outside. So I guess it caused me to be a lot more aware of each and individual student, because everybody learns differently, and that's probably the biggest takeaway I've had.
So to piggyback off that statement, everyone learns differently. What about that? You said you kind of started to answer this question a little bit. You hint at their body language, their posture, their kind of just their overall activity as a person or a student. How do you know if a student is or isn't learning, both in kids or adults?
Yeah, good question. So I've read lots of books on I guess people classify them as personal development, And one of the books I read was called The Power of Habit. And I know we've all heard of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but there's two things that I learned from those books that I really bring to the teaching. And one of them is that our brain is always learning different things, and as soon as our brain is comfortable with some of the information that we take in, we put it on autopilot, and after it gets on autopilot, it's looking for more information to scan. So what I've learned through that is teaching people multiple things at one time, maybe just focusing on one, but reminding them that you're learning multiple things at one time, even though you're focusing on just the one things. And that has really helped. That's really helped our learning, and I call it an accelerated learning program at Metro Jiu Jitsu. Another thing that I've learned is, Rich Dad Poor Dad says if you go to a job to make more money, you can go to a job to make more money, or you can go to a job to learn. And the one who goes to a job to make more money usually ends up making less money than the person who goes to learn. And the same thing in Jiu Jitsu is we want to encourage not competing with our partners and not winning every little battle. We want to encourage them to learn, because the more you learn, the more you know. The more you learn, the more you grow. And my motto is, if you don't grow, you got to go.
Yeah. I was talking with one of our white belts, one of our blue belts, and I was just telling him that I was pretty much encouraging him, telling him to keep up the good work as a teammate, because he, after every time he submits somebody, he kind of pauses and does exactly what you or I may do, and kind of helps them see where they messed up and how to keep from doing it again, rather than doing the same submission over and over and over and feeling like a tough guy. He's like, you know what? I'm going to make everyone else around me tougher, because it's of no benefit if I'm the only one, if I'm just beating up everybody. That nobody learns there. The white belts don't learn because they're getting smashed. The blue belt doesn't learn because he's not getting challenged.
I had been training for, I believe, about probably 6 months or less. I'll never forget, there was a really nice guy I used to train with. His name is Corey. Do you remember him?
Looked like Jesus a little bit.
Yeah, really nice guy. Little hippie. I think he was going to medical school.
Yeah, he wasn't going to med school. Yeah, I remember him. Yeah.
I hope if he hears this one day that he actually did make it to medical school and is a physician. But Corey was, at the time, I was 200 some pounds. I was lifting, playing basketball. I was doing CrossFit. I was in amazing shape. I was in my early 30s, and so he was like, I probably had him by 30 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Corey was cut up like taco lettuce with his hair all wavy. And
he looked like a surf. He definitely had the surfer.
Yeah, he did. And really cool guy. But Corey would get me in his guard, and I'll never forget one time he would choke me with a cross choke from guard. And one time he got me in that choke about maybe literally 5 times in a row. Position training, 5 different times in a row. We were actually rolling. I take that back. So after that roll, I got up and I asked 2 questions. And this is how we learn in Jiu Jitsu today. The first question was, why did I keep doing the same thing? And it annoyed me that I kept doing the same thing, and he literally landed the same exact choke again and again and again and again. Yeah. My next question is, why didn't Corey pull me aside and say, Mo, I nailed that choke on you 5 different times. Look, lean back. Don't lean forward. If I get one hand in the collar, break it or get rid of the other one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's and that's the same philosophy I practice. Is showing them, maybe a couple times so that they can see it, but not abuse it. So let's see what else we got. That's it. You ran through the gambit. Do you have anything you want to add before we go to piggyback off any of those questions? Anything that might be supplementary or helpful to our listeners? Maybe even if they currently train, add to these questions, or if they're looking to train to add to these questions that they might find helpful?
I think we covered some of the questions that we've gotten private messaged about from people inquiring about the school. If you're looking for a martial arts school, it's really important to that you're training to learn, not training to fight. Because the more you learn how to fight, the more you'll be able to fight, obviously, but you want to train to learn and not learn to fight. You learn to fight by training to learn, and I think that if that's a philosophy that schools, instructors, and new people approach it with, then you really can't let yourself down, and you can't lose, because you're always winning by gaining knowledge.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, thank you so much for your time, Coach, and we'll see you guys next time. Please don't forget to like the video and also share the page. If you like what you hear, you can also reach out to us at metrojj.com with any questions, anything you want to hear on the podcast. Just let us know, and we'll do our best to get it on here.